Oh, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Triathlon Business International. My name is Bob Babbitt, and we're brought to you by Babbittville.com, RacePlace.com, and EnduranceSportsWire.com. Our next guest, the CEO of USA Triathlon, Mr. Rob Urbach. Rob, you're looking, as always, incredibly fit. You're training. What are you getting ready for?
I'm trying to stay within striking distance of racing, but it's primarily an optical illusion, Bob. It's not quite there for me.
I love it. Talk a little bit about, before we get into USA Triathlon work, the background you brought to the table working in ball sports and in that industry.
Sure. I think, fortunately for me, I've had an opportunity to work for some great athletes.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, John Elway, Andre Agassi, and understand what some of those larger, more sophisticated sports that have massive television audience, big sponsorships, and big events.
Right.
And we're a much different sport. We're a much more higher participatory sport. These are sports with, there's maybe 1,000 players in the NFL, but 1 billion spectators. We're the other side of that pyramid. We're arguably the fastest growing participatory sport in the world.
Right.
In the U.S., now we've reached a point where is there a certain amount of market, more competitive, more saturation in the marketplace? What can we do to drive spectatorship, to drive more sponsorships and more branding, and shows like yours that are engaging, that are compelling, and driving more content so folks are more engaged?
Right now, we've got what I call the active entertainment industry, which is Spartan Race, Tough Mudder, Ironman, triathlon, Grand Fondo. There's a lot of competition for the same entertainment dollar. And we've built this huge participatory sports base, and obviously marathons and half marathons fall in there as well. How does triathlon rise above to get new people into our sport? Because the sport has been a little bit flat.
Yeah, I think our community is a lot different. Our brain is a lot different. I think that those sports, frankly, no disrespect, some of them are great events, but you can pretty much show up for many of the theme runs. Many of them aren't timed.
Right.
Many of them, you don't have to learn how to swim.
It's not a bucket list item. You just show up and do it.
Right. You can just show up and do it, but you do it with a bunch of your friends, and it's a great rolling party. We become, is it more of a game? These are some, at the high end, there's competitive obstacle racers, certainly, but our sport, everybody really wants to come back. You never really have your perfect race.
Right.
And you always want to improve. It's always aspirational. We're legitimized by the significant events, whether it's Kona, whether it's the Olympics, which legitimizes our sport, standardizes it for the world, and professionalizes our sport. And I think our community we're so engaged in such a social fabric in the lifestyle elements. I'm not sure your lifestyle is. I'm a dirty runner is my lifestyle. It's a bit different. No disrespect. Again, I think they're great events, but your triathlon, I think, is more than just the event itself.
It's a community.
You identify with that community. There's positive attributes. There's characteristics, and you're very collegial.
Right. What, coming from John Elway, Michael Jordan, that type of, those type of athletes who help take a sport to another level. Michael Jordan took basketball to another level. Is that one of the goals? It's like we need to identify, here's a Gwen Jorgensen, here's some athletes who can take our sport to the next level and step out of just the endurance world and into the to the real world, mainstream world.
I think there's two ways to do that. So they're entertainers.
Right.
Triathlon, our community might watch a race, but with the general fan want to watch swim, biking, running all day long. Is that entertainment?
Yeah,
so there's ways to make our sport more compelling. The super sprint racing, draft legal racing, Fast and Furious, the WTS series. It's very compelling television.
Some of the fun relays that you
guys
are doing.
Relays events and different style events. Make it more entertaining, more destination watch.
Yes.
Secondly, someone like a Gwen Jorgensen you mentioned, who is lightning in the bottle. She could transcend the sport.
She really could.
She has all the attributes. She is someone that, if you're a father, you'd want your son to marry Gwen Jorgensen, your daughter to be Gwen Jorgensen.
Exactly.
She's successful professionally, smart, intelligent, cover woman in many cases, and is really changing the game of the sport with her run speed.
Yes.
So, and watch Gwen win after being down 2 minutes, minute and a half is very exciting to watch that happen.
Edmonton at the
repeatedly.
Worlds. Yes.
And so the ability, people that are just general sports fan could see that on television it's really compelling. I think I can say that objectively
Sure.
for a general audience. So someone like Gwen has that ability.
So when you look at a Gwen Jorgensen, who basically, swam for 3 years, ran for 2 years at Wisconsin, had her CPA, was going to start at Ernst & Young, ready to go, and then all of a sudden Barb Lindquist comes to her, who is looking for athletes with great swim and run backgrounds, and saying, we will teach you the bike. Next thing you know, she's on a bike, falling over, trying to figure out how to clip in 2010. 2012, she's in the Olympics. In 2014, she's the best in the world. In 2015. Is that the model for the U.S., or is it, because you're doing everything, right?
Yeah.
You've got the 7, 8-year-olds going through junior programs, and you're still looking for the Alan Webbs and people like that.
Sure. I think for the next couple, there's a window for probably 2 to 3 years. We can still have our collegiate recruits like Gwen. We have several other Gwens with the same kind of run speed in our pipeline.
Wow.
I'm very excited about this. Now, will they develop as quickly as Gwen has? But we have a database of swim runners. But we're reaching out to them earlier and earlier. The high school.
Yes.
Bob McGee, or I call him the Run Whisperers, looking
He
at
is.
8th graders.
Yes. Yes.
So wants to look even younger and younger. 'Cause you're going to have to be. It's probably hard to do it on the men's side because the bike is so hard.
Yes.
So someone who has very little cycling can probably still do it for a couple of years on the women's side. But the bike is still an all-out. When the Brownlees are pushing that pace and crushing it off the front,
And Javier
they're
as
hurting
well.
the
Yeah,
rest
yeah,
of
yeah.
the field.
Right.
You have the equivalent male of a Gwen who might struggle. So it's tougher on the men's side, but we think we have a window. And the men's side is younger and younger. We need triathletes at 11, at 10. And I talked about this notion where when your parents take Johnny to basketball practice on Tuesday, we need an infrastructure. They take them to triathlon practice on Thursday. And we're setting up clubs, this kind of infrastructure. We need to manage the more safety issues around swim and a bike for kids.
Yeah.
They don't have the same team sports issues. So we can manage that piece of it and contain and risk mitigate properly. That's going to change the landscape because these kids then stay in their sport. The biggest problem team sports have, kids are 12 or 13, most of them get washed out of the system.
Right.
They don't make the high-end travel competitive teams. They don't go back to the rec leagues, and they kind of get burnt out in the sport, and they're done. They're cooked. Triathletes, we know that 90% of these kids are going to come back every year. So I'm very excited about some of those initiatives and investments we're making in the youth space.
When I look at someone like Lucas Verzbikas, who started as a triathlete at 8, 9 years old and became a great runner, right? To me, there's a message there because I see so many people getting into training for their first marathon and going and getting 60 miles a week, and they're doing the marathon with their double knee braces on, they're raising money for charity, and then they're gone, right? Triathlon can help solve that because you can replace some running workouts with cycling workouts. In terms of growing triathlon, is there an initiative to try to not identify, but to go to marathon races and half marathon races and spread the love about what triathlon can offer these people?
Well, it's a great question because unfortunately for most people, it's probably an orthopedic reality. You keep running, you're going to have a running issue.
Absolutely.
So to keep them cross-training, and even it's not a lot of fun for someone like Lucas to run 100 miles a week, you can be a great triathlete and still a great runner on 40 miles a week.
Yes.
But for us, there's a couple things. Yes, absolutely engaging the marathon community, but also looking at our Aquabike program, which is a swim bike race, and trying to find ways to establish. We have a pretty significant goal to increase our aquabike racing, to keep people engaged in the lifestyle, engaged in the triathlon community.
Right.
Yet they're only able to run. But there's no reason they should leave our community and leave the lifestyle. So we think aquabike, as the graying of the population grows, the number of people doing aquabikes a year will grow significantly.
So speaking of people with background, you got a 351 miler in Alan Webb who swam in high school, has a great background, and as he has some success in triathlon. That seems like a great media story for the sport.
It's been fantastic. There's been a fair amount of coverage on it, and I think part of it is Alan. I think Alan is also doing more for our team because we have Alan Webb in our program now.
Yes.
Looking to raise the bar for the other athletes. We know when the Brownlees are going to rip off a 28-minute 10K, Alan Webb, the T2, he might be able to channel and get a 27:36 10K. He channels that or that mile speed. Can he do it? Can he get the guy to Rio? Can he get the T2 with the leaders? If you do, you got a shot.
Anything can happen. That's all you
You got
want is a shot, right?
Right, absolutely.
You also have an athlete, Hunter Kemper, who's made the Olympics 4 times in a row. And based on where we stand right now, I wouldn't bet against him making another Olympic team.
You know, Hunter's a great big day racer. You know,
Yes, he is.
He really has had to deliver on the day. He's consistently done it for years and years. He'll be, I think, Bob, close to 40 in Rio.
Yes,
And you know what? He's got a shot at making the team.
he does.
And he can still put together a great swim bike run. And it's gotten harder and harder. In Sydney, the times, look at the run time progressions.
Oh.
The bike is much harder. Swim speeds. These guys are world class in all 3 sports.
Right.
They're not tucking in and taking it easy on the bike. It's
No.
blowing it up on the pack.
Yeah.
And Hunter, smart racer, knows how to dial it in. He can go to the well. He's got to qualify.
He's got to get there.
You got to get there. You get the guy to the start line. He can go to the well. He's got a chance.
You never know. During your the time you've been at USA Triathlon, what are you proudest of so far, and what you guys have accomplished?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things we've done. We've really made our age group national championships very relevant.
Yeah, that Milwaukee event is huge.
Milwaukee event will have about 6,000 athletes. The times, it's probably the fastest Olympic distance race in the world. Folks can actually come in 7th in Milwaukee and win or get on the podium at the Worlds. It depends on who in the day and who shows
Sure.
up. So it's a terrific race. And frankly, it probably wasn't that relevant in the triathlon community. So we've put some marketing muscle
Yes.
behind it, and we're trying to make that, a bit of a Super Bowl flavor to it, an opportunity to engage our membership and sponsors.
Well, when you get 6,000 people,
Yeah.
that's good. And what I was very excited about, it was great seeing ITU come to the U.S. in San Diego a couple years, and this year in Chicago, it blew it out of the park.
Yeah, and another piece, and we're hosting the grand final, as you know, the World
Yes,
Championships
in Chicago.
in this September. So we'll have 6,000 athletes from 30 countries. It'll be part of our Olympic qualification process.
Oh, so will that
and
be
the
a
grand
qualifier?
final? There's 2 qualifying races.
Yes.
It hasn't been announced yet,
Yes.
so maybe it
is now.
It's not formal, but it hasn't been finalized or fully approved. But the plan is the 2 qualification races. There's a Rio test event.
Oh,
In
that's
early
right.
August, and then 6 weeks later, the grand final in Chicago. Both those are qualification races for our team.
So in Rio, if someone finishes, I think
Top
the last
8.
time, yeah, top 8 now, or rather 9. Okay, top 8, then they have a spot. Wow.
So
And then
and
the
most
other-
countries are using that because it's the same course,
Yes.
the test event.
It makes
so it's
sense.
very, in 2011, the same thing. London was the test event.
Do you get backlash at all from race directors who go, "Hey, that's great, Rob, that you're doing a race in Milwaukee or you're doing a race in Chicago, and but you're competing with me. I'm paying fees, and I'm part of USA Triathlon. I've gone through all this stuff as a race director, and now you're dropping an event in my backyard."
Yeah, we do from time to time, but we do 4 races. And so it's less than 1/10 of 1% of the
Yeah.
4,000 races. And we feel as a governing body, we're obligated to host our national championships.
Yes.
And we also feel that other sanctioned races have to qualify for our national championships. It's
Right.
a qualification race.
Which
So
which benefits those races.
we feel we're trying to drive more participation throughout the country for all of our race directors.
So this less than 2 years away, right, from the next Olympics in Rio. We haven't had a medal since Susan Williams back in Athens in 2004. Are you feeling confident? I mean, with the way Gwen's going right now, but we've both seen a lot of athletes do great in between Olympics.
Well, I kind of sort of wish Rio was tomorrow.
Yes, I know.
Because not just Gwen, but Sarah Groff was second in the world last
Yes,
year.
yep.
Sarah Groff, also a great big day racer.
She is.
Wonderful performance in London.
4th in London, yeah.
She is capable of winning. She's going to race by from the front. We have Katie Hersey, another great collegiate recruit.
Yes.
A great swim runner in college as well. We have a bunch of younger athletes that have we have several sub-16 5K runners, several sub-14K on the men's side. There's 3 or 4 in our collegiate program right now. If Lucas gets healthy, Kevin McDowell gets
Yes.
healthy. We've got a great, I think our pipeline, our under 19, under 23 athletes are among the best in the world. Our women's team is the best in the world.
No question.
And for the first time in years, we have 6 athletes on the men's side in the top 45 in Olympic rankings. So we've never been this successful and this deep. So I'm very excited. In 2 years' time from
Yeah.
now, anything can happen.
So over the years, I've always felt that the NBC Ironman show has been the best tool in terms of driving new people in. They see the elites, but they also see Dick and Rick Hoyt. They see Sister Madonna. Those human interest stories, I think, drive people to do our sport. Do you feel USA Triathlon is doing enough or needs to do more in terms of great television, or the world's also changing where you can do television online and drive live coverage, which ITU has done very, very well?
Regardless of the consumption method, whether it's phone, tablet, computer, television, we need to drive better content.
Yes.
And Ironman is a terrific telecast, but it's very unique. It'd be hard to duplicate at your
Something
local community
with 35
race.
years of history,
so
or
we
40
hope
years
to
history,
produce, more weekly television content, travel log, like the Marty LaCouri show. I'm sure you
running and racing
man
back
for 14 years. I think there's time now to do that show. Our audience is big enough, our sponsor interest is big enough, and to create more exposure. So I think more and more races that can be broadcast, the super sprint format makes it very television friendly.
Yes, no question.
You need a small footprint. It's expensive to get the signal all across the course, and helicopters and motorcycles do it right. But super sprint on a tight course is pretty relatively cheap to do.
Yes.
And so that lowers that barrier. And watching the race for a sports fan who may not be a triathlete
It's a lot more fun.
is very cool.
Yeah. Lifetime Fitness just did a really cool thing, which I thought was great for the sport. They did that Commit to Try, where people came to, I think, 77 of their clubs around the country, and it was a 10-minute swim in the pool, there was a 30-minute bike ride on a stationary bike, and then a 20-minute run on a treadmill. And just getting people into the sport, do we need to do more of that?
Sure, I think from a pathway standpoint, on the youth side, absolutely, schools.
Yeah. Yes.
And the more it's complicated because the swim, the bike,
You got
again,
insurance
we got to
issues
make
with
that
schools,
issue. But in countries like New Zealand, virtually every kid does a triathlon in school.
Right.
It's compulsory. You have to walk the run. They do it.
Yeah.
So the culture, it's very much embedded. And if we can start at the collegiate level and the high school level and institutionalize that sport, we'll do more and more to create that pathway. But if there are folks like Lifetime and others, I call the community races,
Yep.
the more folks can never envision themselves as a triathlete,
Yes.
and they're non-competitive, they're not intimidated, they've lowered the psychological and economic barriers to do that, where most people could probably do that, and they say, you know what, I want to jump into the local race director sprint, and guess what? Next thing I want to do, I'm progressing up. They typically progress up in distance, as you know. They want
Yes.
to go Olympic, they'll do a half, and my goal is to do a full,
Yes.
and then try to qualify for Kona down the road.
Right.
So that's a progression that you see, but we also need to be careful there because not everybody can do an Ironman. And
Exactly.
you can be super fit by racing short course, and it's still, we're the only sport in the world where a sprint takes over an hour.
Isn't that the funniest thing? Yeah, people think 10 seconds for a sprint. We're talking an hour 10.
It's still
yeah.
an endurance. You still get a lot of lifestyle benefits from training for your local sprints.
Yes. Biggest challenges you guys face, USA Triathlon faces moving forward?
Well, I think, we really, unfortunately, the municipals have gotten more expensive to race. And it used to be that race directors could pay the local police and post-race beer and T-shirts
Yes.
and food. The economics have changed for municipalities, and it's getting more and more difficult for
a really good
race
point.
permitting.
Yes.
So if we can find ways, there's a destination racing, or racing specifically to manage investments in Tri-Habitat or others that are trying
Right.
to create facilities to lower at least that variable cost, municipal cost
Yes.
of racing, and permitting is getting more and more challenging, environmental issues. So we need to be more smart about where we race. I think that's a key challenge. The other one is we're not a diverse sport.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so we look at this and look at the changing population of the U.S., look at our demographics, there's a disconnect. So if we do nothing, we'll forever remain more niche.
Right.
So there's a number of ways for us looking at cultural adaptation in the underserved communities. It's not easy.
Right.
It's going to take some thought leadership, but we're willing to invest.
When, with the Olympics coming up and with Paralympics coming in for the first time, 2016, obviously with Challenge Athletes Foundation, very excited about that. How big is that for the disabled community to have para-tri-in? And have you seen just a lot of excitement around that?
Absolutely, Bob. As you know, being part of that community, how enabling that is, how powerful it is. It's also astonishing how competitive it's coming.
It's really competitive.
I mean, the
It's a little
qualification
scary.
piece is getting.
Yeah.
We have our Paralympic program mirrors our able-bodied program.
Yeah.
You know, there's now drug testing for para-athletes.
Yeah, I know. Who would ever thought of that?
I mean, so they're really looking at everything being equal, and these are very serious athletes going
Yeah.
to training camps, support. We provide some financial support, as CAF does as well,
Yes.
and it's just getting, it's going to be intense.
It's going to be really
Racing. That's going to be equally as exciting as you know, the Paralympics in Rio. I can't wait for that as well.
going to be nuts.
Yeah.
It's going to be totally crazy.
Yeah.
Rob, thanks for the time.
Sure.
Thanks for everything you're doing for
Sure,
the sport,
appreciate
man.
that, Bob.
It's really
Thanks.
cool. What's your
Pleasure
next
meeting you.
race? Come on.
You know, I need to come out and do the CAF race.
Yes,
down
you
to
do.
Fest in October
Yeah.
next year, so I'm going to commit to that right here on your show.
There
So
we
I
go.
never
Rob
wanted-
Urback will
we're-
be
we're-
there.
I need to do that because I
We'll-
keep talking about it. It's a couple weeks after Kona, right?
Yeah, it's a week after.
Week after, so
Week
I'll
after.
come right back and we'll go right to San Diego
Love that.
there.
Rob Urback has been our guest again. You can check us out on Babbittville.com, EnduranceSportsWire.com, and RacePlace.com. Hold on, everyone. We will be right back.